Hello! I've deliberately moved my Christmas tree from where it actually usually lives over to the couch so that it'll be in the background of this video, because I'm recording this on the, what day is today? The 19th of December, but I think I'm probably not going to end up posting it until probably the new year, probably around the 1st of January, because I'm going to make a vlog video on the solstice, and then I probably won't want to be I'm going to be taking a break from YouTube and Facebook and my blog and all that stuff for at least a week, up to 2 weeks over Christmas. So by the time you see this, it'll be a while since I recorded it. And you know, I'll still have my tree up on the 1st of January if that is when I post this video. So things have been very all over the place for me right now. So the reason I decided to do this video is because things have been changing kind of internally for me a lot as well over the last couple of weeks. As a result of all the upheaval in my life, I decided to go to a counsellor. At the time when I started going to her, I had no idea how long I was going to go to her. I had no idea if it was going to be just like a couple of sessions or a couple of weeks or a couple of months. I went to her for about 6 to 8 weeks, and I'm going to see her again in January, and at that point I'm going to decide if I want to keep going to her or if our relationship is going to come to a close at that point, at least for the moment. And I think it probably will, but it depends on how I'm feeling in January, because a lot, as I've discovered, a lot can change in 2 weeks. So once I started going to her, and I'd been thinking a lot about self-compassion and self-love and stuff because of the Self-Love September that Kellyanne did on her blog and YouTube channel in September. So I had been meaning to kind of do a lot more kind of journaling and thinking about the issue of self-love and stuff like that for quite a while recently. But once I started going to counselling, I realised the extent of the dearth of my own self-love. And this is quite a shocking realisation for me, because I always thought that I was quite self-loving. I really honestly thought that I was, because particularly compared to a lot of the people around me in my life, like my peers and stuff, a lot of them actually have pretty bad issues with self-loathing. And I definitely don't think, you know, I don't self-loathe. I'm not too bad on the spectrum of self-love. I'm definitely a lot healthier on it than a lot of the people around me. So I sort of had a bit of almost like a superiority thing going on, where I was thinking, oh, you know, I don't hate myself that much, or I don't think I hate myself at all, so that's all good and dandy. And I knew that it was something that that maybe I should address and look at a bit more, but it really wasn't something that I thought I had an issue with. And going to counselling and kind of unravelling a lot of childhood issues and issues growing up and with relationships with other people and stuff like that has really been very illuminating. And she suggested to me that I start keeping a journal, which of course I already do. I have stacks of journals on the go at any one time. But what I decided to do was actually start a self-love and gratitude journal. I tied the two things in together because I decided that I wanted my self-love journal to be something that I went to and wrote in every day, and I knew that if I tried to do that, I would get kind of stuck. I wouldn't know what to write every day, and that it would become a bit of a chore. So I decided to kind of lump in the idea of gratitude, and I thought that the two things kind of fit in quite nicely together, because if I'm going into this journal and writing about my experiences of the day and of the week from a perspective of gratitude, I feel like that's a very good place to start in then kind of coming around to being grateful for how I've dealt with things and how the kind of progress that I'm making with how I see myself and how I feel about myself and stuff like that. So basically, first of all, I want to show you my self-love and gratitude journal, and then I'm going to just quickly run through the rest of my journals that I've been working with for the past couple of months, because actually I think it's nearly a year since I did a video on journals, and quite a lot of my habits have actually changed a fair bit, or I'm working in new journals and I've got new things going on and stuff like that. So this is my self-love and gratitude journal. I deliberately, when I bought this journal initially, I didn't really know what I was going to use it for. And I bought it because of the elephants, and it reminded me of Ganesha. And Ganesha is a deity that I have worked with before, that I work with kind of on and off. He's not like he doesn't have a huge presence in my spiritual practice, but he looms larger than most other deities for me, and he does kind of make himself known when I need him. And I'd already bought this because I spotted it and just couldn't say no. I mean, could you? It's so cute. And I just kind of thought that it was actually a very good kind of journal to go for with the self-love and gratitude because of that sort of removing obstacles kind of feeling. It just had a good fit for me. So inside, I haven't done an awful lot so far. Okay, this is gonna be hard to show. I've only gotten as far as about here in the last, say, 6 weeks or so. Maybe not even that, because I didn't start until the 26th of November, so that has really not been even 6 weeks. I had all sorts of notions about this, that I was going to get very crafty with it, that I was going to kind of do collage and scrap and all sorts of artistic stuff like that I was going to draw. And honestly, so far all I have done is like just write, just writing, just lots of writing. And I kind of come to a realization that that is just my journaling style. I think that if I had a lot more kind of time on my hands, maybe over the Christmas break when I'm taking a bit of time off, that might become something that comes naturally to me. But to be honest with you, like when I'm journaling, mostly I just want to get the words down. And that is just the most nurturing thing that I can possibly do for myself. That being said, I think it might be a good idea for me to branch out a bit with this self-love journal in trying to maybe draw and be more artistic and scrap and stuff like that, just to push the boat out and to kind of try new ways of journaling and doing inner work and stuff like that, because I do want this kind of self-love path of progress to be something of kind of innovative for me. So I always do this in the beginning of journals. Okay, you're not going to be able to see that at all, but I say self-love and gratitude journal. I kind of describe what it is, and then I kind of put a beginning date and then I'll put an end date whenever it is filled up, which I imagine will take quite amount of time. So I do write in it every day. I do a sort of gratitude entry. Now when I say every day, I haven't been as strict with this as I had been previously with my kind of 2014 with my kind of daily planner journal things that I used to keep, and I'll talk about that again in a second, because I don't want this to be a thing that feels like a chore. I don't want to kind of be beating myself up about it if I don't get to it for a day. So probably at least one day in the week I won't get around to writing in this. It might be more like 5 or 6 days a week. But so far that's working out pretty well. And then whenever I kind of feel like I have the time or just feel drawn to it, I will sometimes, once I start writing, it kind of flows off in a slightly different direction to just talking about gratitude. I try to pick at least kind of 3 to 5 things, specific things about my day that I'm grateful for. So like an emotional experience, something in my life, a person in my life, a person's action, just anything that has anything that I've experienced during the day. I try to kind of frame it in a way that I can feel gratitude about. I'm not in a way that feels disingenuous or that I'm forcing myself into that belief, but something that I am genuinely grateful about the situation. I will pick that out and write about that. But then sometimes I will just write kind of love notes to myself, which has been a really interesting experience. I write to myself I write to myself in 2 tenses. Sometimes I refer to myself in third person, so I will say, no, not third person, sorry, second person. So sometimes I'll write a little letter like, you know, you are beautiful, you are wonderful, you are whatever it is that I'm saying. And then sometimes I will just kind of say talk about myself in the first person. So that kind of varies. It varies on whether I feel like because sometimes I feel like I'm kind of writing to parts of myself that aren't fully conscious, to older versions of myself that experienced some pain or rejection in the past and stuff like that. So it just kind of depends on who I feel like I'm talking to. But it's always addressed to myself. It's always kind of about myself. I don't like to go off in tangents about other people and what I think is going on with other people in this journal at all. It's all about my own responses, my own reactions, and just really kind of backing myself up, like being my own cheerleader, kind of saying, you know, this situation was really tough, that was really upsetting, and I know you were disappointed by that, but you know, well done you for picking yourself up, and you know that I'm here for you, and you know, all of that kind of stuff. So this has been a really interesting experience, because it does sometimes still feel very hokey to kind of you know, write things like that and But the more I do it, the more genuine it's starting to feel. And I'm starting to kind of get used to things like often now at my altar and stuff, before I meditate or whatever, just when I feel like it during the day, because I live by myself, I will just start kind of talking to myself out loud. And that kind of is similar to what I do in the journal. It's just the same thing, except that I'm not writing, I'm just speaking out loud. And it's actually been a really, really interesting experience. I'm starting to get this feeling of actually building up a relationship with myself, kind of like a loving friendship, where I would just kind of talk myself through things and give myself advice and just to remind myself that, you know, I'm getting through this, and not only am I getting through something difficult, but I've come along so much further than, like, if I'd gone through this same thing a couple of months or years ago, that I would have been in a much more helpless, vulnerable state. Because now that I've come to this realization that I can kind of help myself and be there for myself, and that there is a part of me that is strong enough to do that. I mean, that has just helped me immensely. That has changed me more over the past like 6 to 8 weeks than any other realization or decision or anything else that I have done. So the actual act of writing in this journal and what I've written in this journal and everything has been hugely transformational, and it has led to me being able to make some really core key decisions for myself in the last couple of weeks. And honestly, I feel sort of more tapped into my personal power than I ever have before in my life. I still definitely slip back into old habits and old feelings and stuff like that. I'm really starting to notice in myself, and have been noticing myself for some years, but particularly in the last couple of weeks, a couple of different, it's almost like habits that my body has, like body memory, emotional responses that are sort of like a physical memory. I know there's a word for that in clinical psychology or whatever, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. And I definitely still experience those kind of moments. I definitely still have those sort of visceral responses to things, but I am able to kind of self-soothe and calm myself down and talk myself through it. And I know, even when I'm in the depths of those horrible moments, that I know that I'm going to be okay. And not only that I'm going to be okay, but I'm going to feel great in a while, that I'm going to feel happy and confident and secure, because I know now that I have that safe place within myself, that I have that strong core within myself that can really withstand all of that emotional upheaval. But I would actually say that maybe even more than the actual act and the process of writing in this journal, that the most transformational thing about it was actually making the decision in the first place. And this is kind of for two different reasons that are sort of almost contradictory. And the first is the simple fact of realizing that I needed to. And I kind of mentioned that a little while ago, the kind of, that I had this idea that I didn't need a self-love practice because I was self-loving, and that I had no need of any sort of healing of that nature. And that was actually really damaging for me, because hiding from the fact that I did actually have kind of problems or issues or just not enough self-love to go around was actually really hindering me, because I kind of couldn't figure out why I wasn't progressing, why I wasn't improving at certain issues, why things still just didn't feel quite right, and why I still wasn't feeling as happy and confident and strong in the seat of my power as I wanted to. So acknowledging that actually I am a vulnerable person, that I have a lot of vulnerabilities, that I have a lot of pain and hurt that needs to be healed from my past, acknowledging that was huge, and it actually made it just, the whole process then sort of kick-started much quicker, and seems to be happening much quicker than I would have expected, because I think I have done a lot of that healing, but I just haven't been acknowledging it, and acknowledging the need for it, and that healing has been taking place is huge. But conversely, I think, on the other hand of that, one of the major things that had to happen for me to start with this journal was realizing that I could do it, that I actually have enough self-worth and self-love and enough reserves to actually take this on. Because one of the things about keeping a self-love journal is that if you're completely depleted of self-love and completely depleted of self-worth and strength and stuff like that, it can be very hard to start writing anything nurturing to yourself. And I think it definitely can be done, but I know that it would be much harder for me if I didn't actually already have that place within me that is strong and happy and confident and secure and all of that good stuff. So yeah, it's kind of two contradictory things going on, you know, and it's almost like I was living these sort of two half lives. Half of me, or you know, half of the time, maybe not half of the time, but some of the time, I would feel as though I was kind of, you know, when I was in the grips of despair and confusion and being overwhelmed, I would just feel like I didn't have any place that I could go to within me that could offer the kind of nurturing, loving support that I actually have been offering myself with this journal. And then on the other hand, the rest of the time I was like, no, I'm fine. I don't need a self-love journal. I'm absolutely fine. So it's been really eye-opening. If you haven't watched Kellyanne's videos on Self-Love September and generally on self-love, she does talk about this quite a lot, about maintaining a self-love practice and that kind of thing. I would definitely suggest that you check it out. I'll link something below so that you can go and find those videos, because deciding to do this, obviously it went hand in hand with counselling, and probably this process would have unravelled in its own time anyway. But this has been really, really nurturing for me. I feel like it's sort of started to make things click into place. I've definitely been evolving and growing and healing a lot ever since I started my spiritual practice, or started focusing on it. And I don't necessarily think that it was just having a spiritual practice that made me feel this way, but it was more that like the decision to begin a spiritual practice happened because I was starting out on a process of self-growth and self-healing and becoming more true to myself, if you see what I mean. So yeah, I actually think I might make another video now to follow this up on the rest of my journals, because I feel like this one has been fairly long already. So yeah, I'll be posting that probably directly after this one. Kellyanne, if you watch this video, I suppose this is a sort of semi-video response to that series that you posted. It was really, really helpful. Obviously it's a concept that I've been familiar with before, but just kind of going through all the content that you put out there for Self-Love September was just really kind of, it solidified the need for me, I suppose, and really opened up a new kind of avenue of self-discovery and growth and good stuff. So thanks for watching, guys.